Okay, what if? What if every single wild conspiracy theory, every paranormal thing you've ever heard about, maybe every ancient myth, what if they weren't just random stories, but were actually like connected,
Mm-hmm.
part of a single huge narrative you could actually map out?
Mm-hmm.
Well, today we're taking a deep dive into something called the world beyond the ice wall, or BTIW. It's this absolutely monumental act of modern myth making, and it's sprung up from some really fascinating online communities. We're going to try and navigate this incredible world, unpack its architecture, dig into its hidden histories, explore the geography, which is astonishing, and hopefully show you how maybe every piece of that conspiracy iceberg kind of fits together here.
It really is something else. BTIW, you could think of it as a complete, like a cartography of belief, a grand unified theory for all things strange, maybe. Its beginnings are with an artist, Ohoe, who apparently got inspired by one of those flat Earth maps, the kind where Antarctica isn't a continent at the bottom, but this massive ice wall encircling everything we know.
Right. And what's so cool about it is this isn't some secret society thing. It's totally open source, totally collaborative, like a shared universe with, I think they said, 400 million pixels of free real estate for world building. It's being built right now by this whole community of, like-minded weirdo internet strangers, as they put it, on Discord, a wiki, Reddit. It's constantly evolving.
Exactly. And the actual structure of this world, it tells a story all by itself. You've got our known world, Earth right there in the middle. Then comes that first huge ice wall, but that's just the start. Go beyond that, and there's a second, much bigger disk, new continents, they call that Atlas. And then past Atlas, another ice wall, even bigger, hiding this even stranger, vaster place called Akupara. And that is bordered by these primordial, chaotic things called the wastes. So it's really not just a map. It's like a whole cosmology. It's a living document where, let's be honest, history is basically a lie. And yeah, gods and monsters, they're real.
Okay, wow. That's a lot to take in. So with that kind of mind-bending picture, let's unpack how this universe actually works. What are the rules here? Because it's clearly not just our physics, right?
Oh, not at all. The ultimate origin in the BTIW lore is this thing called the cosmic egg. It was apparently brought forth by a supreme entity they just called God. Ku. Now, this God isn't really a person. It's more like this absolute cosmic force, total truth, the universe knowing itself. It created the universe to explore its own infinity, basically. But doing that apparently caused a sort of divine ego death, letting the whole cosmic process just run. So picture God as pure potential way out at the edge, and at the very center, the yoke is pure separation, no magic.
That's pretty heavy for an origin story. And what about the worlds themselves, like Earth? Are they just planets like we think of them?
No, not quite. In BTIW, worlds like Earth, which they call Gaia, are these snowmen worlds. Think multi-layered spheres, okay? And they actually extend into a fourth dimension, into this concrete universe, which is why apparently you can see other snowman worlds like Venus or Jupiter from Gaia with a telescope, but they might look, I don't know, distorted, warped.
Okay, so that's the structure. What about the forces? What makes these different rings, these realms, actually different?
Right. The key thing defining each realm are these two basic opposing energies, Azoth and Aether. Azoth is like the raw stuff of creation, pure magical potential. It flows into the universe from God, kind of seeping through pores in those chaotic wastes at the very edge. Aether, on the other hand, that's what makes physics work. It makes reality solid, concrete, and mostly comes from stars, aether light, and you also get more of it the higher up you go. And it's the ratio between Azoth and Aether that dictates pretty much everything about a place. It's physics, it's life, everything.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, because this ratio creates a definite thematic gradient, right, across those rings you mentioned. So our Earth, the inner ring, it's got really high Aether, very low Azoth. That means normal physics, magic is super rare or hidden, reality feels stable, which, if you wanted to control people and keep them ignorant, pretty convenient.
Exactly. Then you move out to Atlas, the middle ring. That's got more of a balance between Aether and Azoth. So physics is mostly consistent, but you get obvious magic, actual mythic beasts, things called thematic phenomena just happening. History and myth really start blending together there.
And then you hit Akupara, the outer ring. Low Aether, super high Azoth, almost the opposite of Earth. What does that do to reality?
It means physics gets fluid. Magic is everywhere, and it's incredibly powerful. Reality itself can be shaped by belief, by willpower. This leads to things they call destabilizing storms.
Wait, literal storms that warp reality.
Yeah, exactly. And people or beings can pull off godlike acts of creation, like genetic stuff. It's where the absolute weirdest parts of the conspiracy iceberg feel right at home. If enough people there believe something, it can literally become true.
Wow. So this whole cosmic dance between Azoth and Aether, creation and order, it shapes everything. And I heard this connects to other esoteric ideas too.
Oh, absolutely. They weave in other energies, things like Vril and Orgon, usually as more specific types or uses of Azoth or ether. And the whole setup, this emanation from a divine source descending into denser material reality, it really echoes old Gnostic and Hermetic ideas. And those secret rulers of Earth you mentioned, they fit perfectly into the Gnostic idea of archons, these beings who supposedly keep humanity trapped in materialism and ignorance of the divine.
Okay, so we have these structured realms. But what about the wastes themselves, way out at the edge? They're not just empty space, are they?
No, definitely not empty. The wastes are primordial, chaotic, and frankly hostile. They're where raw Azoth is pouring in but hasn't been formed into stable reality yet. Trying across them would be like trying to sail across raw chaos, maybe like trying to navigate deep space without a ship, but worse.
And are they all the same kind of chaotic?
Nope, they're described as being really varied. The map shows like frozen wastes, scorched wastes, sunken wastes, volcanic wastes, even a titanic forest. Each one has its own kind of dangers, its own garden variety demons, as the lore puts it. And it was into these wastes, by the way, that the reptilians originally fled from Earth and came back
It changed.
corrupted.
Which brings us back to Earth. You'd think it's the normal bit, the center of things. But in BTIW, it sounds more like a trap.
That's exactly how it's presented. Earth is basically a planet-sized prison, and the wardens are the reptilians. They're described as pure chaos incarnate, the masterminds behind keeping humanity locked down. And they aren't really aliens like we usually think. They were native to Gaia, fled into the wastes way back during the Permian extinction, got warped by the chaos, and came back. They rule from the shadows, using the Illuminati as their, ground crew. The lore even says they designed Earth's moon, maybe as a giant spy camera, maybe some kind of mind control thing. Their big goal, to flatten Earth, break down its order, turn it back into chaos so they can thrive.
And they don't operate alone. What about the Greys, the classic little gray aliens?
Yeah, in this story, the Greys aren't calling the shots at all. They're actually tragic figures. They're what's left of the original Martians, apparently genetically messed with, mind-controlled, basically enslaved by the reptilians after Mutters got used up. So the Greys, they're the ones flying the UFOs, doing the abductions. They're the frontline drones in the reptilians' control system for Gaia.
That sounds like total control. Was there ever a time when their grip slipped? A crack in the prison wall?
There was a really crucial period in the lore called the Black Moon Era. For about 400 years, something happened. It's not totally clear what, but reptilian communication with the Illuminati on Earth was cut off. And this disruption, this window, allowed Earth's big colonial powers, Spain, Portugal, Britain, France, those guys, to actually find ways through the ice wall. They started exploring, mapping, even setting up colonies in Atlas and Akupara. For the first time in ages, humanity was looking outwards again.
A moment of freedom.
Uh-huh.
But he didn't last, did it?
Yeah.
It was mud flood. Sounds ominous.
Yeah, ominous is right. When the reptilians got back in control, they launched this massive campaign to slam the door shut again. This led to something called the Mud Flood, basically a century of engineered disasters, wars, massive societal upheaval. They rewrote history books, destroyed maps and records of the outer worlds, physically sealed off the passages, and just generally pushed humanity back into this prison of perception. Any colonies out in Atlas or Akupara, cut off, forgotten. It was literally a war fought over reality itself to control what we even know is possible.
Okay, so if that's the history, what about getting out now? For anyone brave or maybe foolish enough to try, the journey starts at the ice wall, that huge barrier. What's it supposed to be like?
According to the lore, it's very, very real. A physical wall of ice, hundreds, maybe thousands of feet high. Think the White Cliffs of Dover, but surrounding the entire known world. And yeah, of course, the powers that be on Earth, controlled by the reptilians, strictly forbid anyone going near Antarctica. They need to keep that secret.
But secrets always leak, don't they? Despite the ban, the lore mentions these gates of Antarctica, hidden ways through, like vile vortexes, similar to the Bermuda Triangle idea.
Exactly. Places with names like the Leviathan's Gate, the Sentinel's Gate, the Serpent's Gate, the Tiger's Gate, each one supposedly a hidden, dangerous passage. And if you make it through, one of the first places you might find in Atlas is Thoth. But Thoth isn't fixed. It's a nomad continent. It actually orbits around the Atlas ring, taking about 1,500 years to do one lap, so its climate is constantly changing as it moves.
And Thoth is surprisingly populated, isn't it? With humans from different Earth eras.
Yeah, it's like a historical lost and found. You've got descendants of Yagan people from maybe 8,000 years ago. Then there are folks descended from Carthaginian explorers who apparently got there around 150 BCE and founded an empire called Makamadzu. There are even descendants of a Norse expedition that got lost around 1100 CE, supposedly sucked through the Bermuda Triangle and spat out near Thoth. And because it was reachable, Thoth was apparently the first Atlas continent rediscovered by modern Earth explorers during that Black Moon era. It became a big target for colonization, especially by this Basque nation called Mundabaria, who carved out quite an empire there by the 1830s.
Moving on, south of Thoth, there's Geminia. You mentioned it has this theme of duality.
Yeah, lore accounts talk about twin rivers and this weird thing where almost all the animals, livestock especially, bear twins. And the native people there are the Zelato. They're described as these gentle, sentient, elephant-like beings, very kind, very social, cooperative. They naturally avoid conflict.
Which makes what happened next even more tragic, I suppose. The human colonization.
Exactly. It's a really grim part of the lore. Spanish colonizers arrived, hunted the peaceful Zelato almost to extinction for resources, or maybe just because they were different. Survivors faced genocide, enslavement. Some were even forced to learn how to fight back just to survive.
Right. It's a pretty direct allegory for real-world colonialism, isn't it? How exploration and expansion often lead to destruction and the corruption of innocence. It really makes you think about how these fantastical stories can hold up a mirror to our own history, our own actions.
A powerful, sobering point. Are there other major lands in Atlas?
There are others mentioned, yeah. Nen, named after the Egyptian sun disk, so maybe something sun-related there. Ptasia, which seems like more of a blank slate in the lore currently. And Zerzura, named after a legendary oasis, so maybe it holds some kind of hidden paradise or secret. Atlas overall feels like the place in the project where people really play with alternate history, taking known cultures and events and twisting them in this new, slightly magical context. Okay, so if Atlas is alternate history with a twist of magic, Akupara, the Outer Ring, sounds like it goes full fantasy. Pure, unadulterated legend, you said.
That's a good way to put it. Akupara is just drenched in Ezoth. So much so that normal physics basically breaks down. Magic is rampant, it's powerful, it's everywhere. This is where the really bizarre stuff from mythology, from ufology, cryptozoology, it's not just stories anymore. It's actual geography, actual biology.
So places like Atlantis.
Yeah.
They're real places here.
According to BTIW, yes. Akupara has 4 main subnoting continents: Asgard, Atlantis, Mu, and Lemuria. All those legendary lost lands, real places you can go to in Akupara. They're apparently the homelands of the Subnotians, this ancient, incredibly powerful race. Figures associated with them, like Skyfather or Yakub, are described as being capable of almost god-level stuff. Massive creation, wild genetic engineering.
And the inhabitants.
Yeah.
Like a stranger too, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned the Nords.
Yeah, the Nords. In this lore, they're an alien race, and they use the whole Gaian system, Earth, Atlas, Akupara, as a sort of dumping ground, a penal colony for their criminals. And one of the most famous or infamous is Svath, an ancient Nord prisoner, but also a master geneticist. He's supposedly the one who created creatures like the Bleme, the headless humanoids, harpies, monopods, all sorts of monsters. Apparently, Svath has been around for millennia. He's even identified with figures like the Flame Emperor from ancient China. And there are humans on an island in Akupara who supposedly worship him as a living god right now.
And then there's Yakub, the mad scientist. He's a figure from Nation of Islam mythology, but how is he presented here?
Right. He's been recontextualized within BTIW. Here, he is seen as a Subnotian mega genius, specifically in biochemistry and cloning. He supposedly had a lab on the island of Patmos where he did these absolutely wild experiments, creating human-animal hybrids and who knows what else. Akupara is also supposedly home to the Nephilim, these powerful hybrid beings, maybe descendants of Subnotians and humans, who are said to have secretly shaped Earth's history. Figures like Genghis Khan or Merlin are sometimes pointed to as examples. And remember, those colonies founded during the Black Moon era, places like New Cahokia, New Tord, Weldrum, they're out here in Akupara, cut off from Earth, developing these completely unique societies in a world saturated with magic. Imagine growing up where magic is just normal.
It really sounds like Akupara's geography is literally made of belief and myth.
It absolutely feels that way. You've got continents named Eden, Horus, Amun-Ra. There's an archipelago called Asclepia, the living hospital, named after the Greek god of healing, hinting at incredible curative powers. And maybe the weirdest one, Polybius, named directly after that urban legend arcade game from the 80s, the one rumored to cause psychological effects. Having a continent named Polybius suggests a place where reality itself might be unstable, maybe even governed by digital or, like, mimetic rules. A place that can mess with your head just by being there.
So, connecting this back, a Kupara isn't just weird, it's like. It's the collective unconscious made physical, a place where our deepest myths, fears, maybe even forgotten truths take actual shape. It suggests that belief isn't just a state of mind, it's a force that can literally build worlds or tear them down with those destabilizing storms. That's a pretty profound idea, blurring psychology and physics. Imagine your thoughts shaping the mountains around you. That's a Kupara.
And even beyond Akupara, you hit the final barriers. First is the Titanic forest, described as this unbelievable wall of biology, just colossal trees or plants on a scale you can't imagine. Past that, and you reach the walls of Asgard. Not the continent Asgard, but some kind of massive mountain range, or maybe even a cyclopean artificial structure. It feels like a barrier to something truly divine, perhaps.
And the last body of water, the abyssal ocean, with the Tiffin storm, this permanent, monstrous hurricane that makes trying to cross basically suicide. So what lies at the absolute farthest edge?
The ultimate limit seems to be Valhalla, located beyond the walls of Asgard, right at the periphery. It's presented as the mythological Valhalla made real, a transcendent place closer to that divine source of Azoth, the afterlife maybe, or just the edge of navigable reality.
You know, this whole journey outwards, from Earth through Atlas and Akupara into the wastes, it really does sound like alchemy, doesn't it? Moving from the complex back to the simple, the raw.
It really does. You can absolutely see the outer wastes and those final barriers as the prima materia, the raw, chaotic, undifferentiated stuff that everything comes from. Azoth flows from there. It's the source code of reality, but it's incredibly dangerous in its raw state. So the journey outwards is like going from the cooked, ordered, maybe mundane world of Earth back towards the raw, chaotic, intensely magical source of creation itself. It's a symbolic alchemical journey, definitely.
So wrapping this all up, what does it mean, this whole world beyond the ice wall project?
Yeah.
It's just incredible, a real testament to what collaborative online creativity can do. It's like a living, breathing piece of 21st century folklore, isn't it? A mythology being written right now.
Absolutely. And its success is totally tied to that open source, community-driven approach, using platforms like DeviantArt, Discord, Reddit, YouTube. It's like how ancient myths must have grown through people telling and retelling and adding bits, but just, massively accelerated by the internet.
It really is like a unified field theory of weirdness. Every cryptid, every secret group, every strange idea seems to find a place here. The controlled Earth, the alternate histories of Atlas, the sheer magical chaos of Akupara, it all fits into one single, frankly, enormous story.
It basically says the truth isn't just out there, it's been mapped. And here's the map, go explore. But ultimately, maybe the project works best as a map, not of some fantasy world, but of the landscape of contemporary belief itself. All the strange, wonderful, terrifying ideas floating around out there, given a place and a connection.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought for you to take away. How much of our own reality, the one we experience every day, is just a grand story that we've all collectively agreed upon? Whether someone designed that story for us, or whether it just happened by accident.